A reflection on Transgender Remembrance Day, written by Paul Langston Daly. This week held Transgender Day of Remembrance, to recall those whose very being was not seen as a divine gift, but instead as different and dangerous. We mourn their loss, their contribution to this world cut short. And in these times, when all we have worked for seems to be unraveling, I see a call, not just for remembrance, but also for resistance and resilience. We hold within each of us the spark of the divine, the love of the divine, the image of the divine. We hold within each of us a sense of need, not want, but need, to be both visible and invisible at the same time. Visible to those with eyes to see us. Invisible to those who see difference as dangerous. We hold within each of us the need, not want, but need, to build brave space around us where we can move and speak and be witnessed in love. As we face the death of so many of our siblings, we recognize the power of our struggle, not just for our own liberation, but for the liberation of all. We bring attention to this false dichotomy. We threaten the binary. If the binary is not valid here, where else does it fail us? This is not an idle threat, but one that challenges the very foundation upon which the white, cisgender, heteropatriarchy is built. To resist this binary and invite in something more profound, to be intentional in our resistance, our disruption, to know that our very presence is our power, and our power could be legion. We enter spaces, transgress the binary by stealth or invitation, inviting a deeper conversation, the possibility of opening perspectives. Whether we are visible or invisible, we build brave space around us, space where we can claim our truth and we are witnessed, providing us the strength and the choice to remove our shoes and offer them up to others in the name of understanding, empathy, and love. Resilience comes from the belonging and love of community, from the memory of those who have gone before us. For them, because of them, we remember, we resist, we are resilient.
Today, we are honored to hear from a panel of gender-diverse voices from within our community. Transgender Day of Remembrance asks us not only to mourn those taken too soon, but to center the wisdom, resilience, and the lived truth of trans and non-binary people who are here, alive, shaping the world. And I am so pleased to welcome to the stage Alex Gabriel, Audie Barnes, and Gerardo Mendez. Welcome to the stage. Please introduce yourself and your pronouns.
I'm Alex, pronouns are he, him.
I'm Gerardo, also known as Gertie. My pronouns are he, they.
I'm Audie, and my pronouns are he, they.
And when did you come into your identity? How has your understanding of gender changed over time?
So I think my gender exploration really started, hello, hi. When I was going through a divorce in 2018, and I realized I didn't want to have any kids, and I think for the first time ever, I'd started to question if I don't want to be a mother, do I want to be a wife, like, who am I? And it was weird because I was like, I think 23-ish at the time, so kind of even just having options, I was like, whoa. I think I was pretty resistant to it at first because I think trying to measure up to womanhood was always something that felt like I couldn't quite get there. And I think that at first I always thought it was like I would jump from womanhood to the other opposite thing. And that also felt like going into a new box. But I think it was like learning and meeting other trans people and really getting to see like the diversity of gender that was like, oh, I can just kind of be myself. That's kind of cool. So yeah, that was kind of really where it started for me.
I think for me, I think it's a continuing journey. It never really ends for me. As of right now, I don't have an answer that I can fully confidently give. But I think for a lot of people, you will never really find the answer until it comes to you. Things have to kind of fit in place before you can finally understand who you are. And I feel like I'm still in that transition myself. When it all started was around high school for me. I kind of felt like I wasn't a part of the guys, but I also felt a little different from the girls. I didn't feel quite masculine enough for them, and I didn't feel enough femininity for the males. So I was just constantly, berating myself, causing myself stress mentally. And I guess at the point now where I am, it's just, finding out what makes me happy and just doing that. And maybe one day I will find a label for it, but for right now, I think I'm just going to continue on my journey to discover myself. And so, yeah.
So, for me, a big part of the gender journey has been being in sobriety. When I was in active addiction, I had no time or patience or energy for anything except that I had been out as a binary trans man for about 10 years now. And as I worked my program and as I got to a place where I was able to actually unpack a lot of the things that I was running from and a lot of the things that I was numbing, it kind of became apparent that that wasn't the correct, but like I used to say, if you gave me 3 boxes, one to the left, one to the right, and one in the middle, I would get in the middle one. But I don't think there is a box. Like I have decided, I've spent a long time searching for like a label that fits and searching for an identity that I can connect with and micro labels and this and that. And I've decided the answer is it changes. That's my gender identity. It changes. And without being able to clear my head, without being able to actually face a lot of the shame and the guilt that I felt about not being a good enough daughter and then not being a good enough son, I wasn't able to really be honest with myself about my gender and how I felt. And now I can embrace the parts of me that maybe I would have felt shame or embarrassment about before and understand that I don't have to be good enough for someone else. I just have to be good enough for myself.
So that brought up some great points on joy and unapologetic self. So what makes you feel good? Like what makes you feel joyful?
I guess we'll go back the other way. I feel a lot of joy when I express myself in ways that make me feel confident. Funnily enough, doing my makeup makes me feel a lot more masculine. Doing the self-care, doing things that genuinely support my body. I've gotten a lot more into my artwork. I've started to represent queer identities in my art and my characters a lot more than I was comfortable with in the past, because I felt like I had to reach this unattainable secret goal of other people approving of what I wrote and what I drew, and that's not fun for me. Being with my community, going to events, going to spend time with other queer folk has been great for that sense of community and that joy there. It's scary. It's scary to walk out and know that I don't fit into people's ideas of what I should be, but there's also a lot of joy to be found in being authentically myself.
For me, what brings me joy is wearing what I like. That's always been a struggle. I recently started wearing what I liked when I moved into what I call our living place, the Blue House, um, because I was surrounded by people that were very supportive and understanding of how I want to express myself. And I was given that freedom that I was never really given when I was living with my family. So those things are like, wearing dresses, wearing, very cute sweaters, painting my nails, which I haven't done because of financial issues. But I think we're all there. But those small things really make me feel comfortable in my own skin and bring me closer to who I think I should be. Again, I'm still finding myself because there's a lot of things that also bring me joy, like video games, and that's always associated with like males, but I feel like there's a lot of men and women that enjoy video games. So that doesn't necessarily have to fit in a box. And everyone is different and everyone has a lot of different things that bring them joy. And I just happen to dabble in a lot of them.
I think that I had a moment right before I decided to medically transition where all the things that the judgmental things I said about myself, I kind of was like looking at other people and I was like, what if I asked that question about that person? Like, is what they're doing cringe, or is what they're doing like, and it was just like, even if it was, I don't care. And so I had that moment of like, I can be weird and other people can be weird, and like being able to love the ugly, twisted parts of myself, I'm able to love that in other people so much. And I mean, we've all kind of touched on this community thing, but it's not just about feeling like, oh, I can be honest with other people, but it's like, if I can see who I really am, I can see other people who they really are, and I'm fine with it. I don't have to be so judgmental of myself, and therefore I'm not judging anybody else in the same way I used to be. And that brings me a lot of joy.
I love the, yeah. I love the authenticity. And yes, Gertie, you have lots of cute sweaters. So, speaking of joy and a few things on that, we talked about this previously. So let's talk about the hair. The hair. Yeah.
So, a little bit of background. I grew up in a Hispanic household. So men are traditionally to have short hair while the women have long hair. Since I was a little kid, my mom would always not force me, but like forcibly encourage me to cut my hair. And I was that type of person that did not like getting my hair cut. I think it's probably plays a little bit into my autism because I don't like the noise, I don't like the feeling, and that just I felt like I was cutting a piece of myself every time I got my hair cut. It wasn't until I finally hit 18 that my mom gave me the freedom to choose whether I wanted long hair or short hair, and I immediately went to long hair because I felt more comfortable with longer hair. And it took my mom a little while to kind of understand that, I love long hair and I love to style long hair. And now that I do have long hair, she can't keep her hands off of it. She always touches my hair, and I personally don't mind. She says, "Oh my God, your hair's just like mine." Hers is currently, kind of thinning out, so I guess that's why she loves mine so much. But it finally took her a while to understand why I loved my hair, because it reminded me a lot of her hair. And I admired her hair growing up, and I always wanted it, so I'm kind of glad that I got to have her hair. I got the good genes, not my dad's hair where he's now balding. Sorry, Ian.
It's okay.
But speaking of my dad, he is a special case who still has not fully accepted me for who I am. I will say he is currently trying, but, he still has a long way to go in this journey. But I just got to admire him for at least trying.
Hair is a big deal. I am a hairstylist, so I spend a lot of time doing other people's hair. But what I like about that is I have this weird series of events that keeps happening where apparently the trans mass community in Hearst is just telling each other to come see me. Because I don't, when I have a consultation with my client, I will make sure, do you want it square in the back? That's going to look more masculine. If that's what you want, let's do it. And I do that because I had the experience that I think every transmasculine person gets the first time they cut their hair short, which is, we're going to give you a pixie and make it look cute and feminine. And I'm like, no, that's not. Damn it. For myself, I find it interesting. Sometimes I feel more feminine the longer I let my hair grow out, and it's not because I want to or like I feel like I'm chasing anything. It is simply because, just like Gertie, I hate having my hair cut. So I'll, it'll grow out for a couple months, and I'll be like, oh, this is so cute and feminine, and then I'll get it cut, and I'll be like, oh, I feel extremely masculine right now. And neither of those things are bad, and neither of those things have to be separated from each other. It's just interesting to me that is the visual cue in my brain that tells me how I'm going to feel, is whether or not I have sucked it up and got a haircut. And for me, I think probably the thing that I find most affirming about my hair is the color. I've had my hair red for probably, again, like 10 years. I've done blonde, I've done natural in between, and I keep going back to the red, and it makes me feel like me when I look in the mirror and see it.
I think of all the gender affirming care I've had, the most extensive and I guess working, the most the thing that has gotten me gendered correctly the most is a fresh fade. I went from when my weight started shifting, I changed different sizes, different shapes. It was literally when I got this haircut, people were he-hemming me and sirring me out the wazoo. It was funny. It was oh wow, okay, this. But I think as a barber, something I've really noticed in the barbershop, there is this special connection where we live in a society, and of course there are gendered things in that society, and I think that one of the big things that we don't talk about is men taking care of themselves. And that's why we have the society where you end up having men who aren't taking care of themselves and then are leaning too much on other people. And I think that the barbershop is this safe space for men to explore self-care. And I think that before I even knew that I was doing gender exploration, I was doing it inside of the barbershop as a practitioner. And I was able to, men open up to their barbers way more than you think they do. I have men in my life that I cut their hair that tell me I'm somebody that knows more than most people in their lives about their secrets. So I think being able to just see oh, these are just people. Men are just people. And then being able to kind of explore that before I was really able to label it, made a lot of my gender exploration a lot easier.
That joke, men will go to anything other than therapy.
Yeah. Literally.
So you brought up some really interesting points, especially both the authentic self, but some intersectionality with various identities. And so my next question is about masking intersectionality and being your authentic self.
Well, I think we've all three kind of touched on being neurodivergent. That is something that is really prominent in the trans community. I've always looked at masking, it kind of comes second nature, and there is something beautiful about shedding those masks and being able to, slowly feel more authentic and more yourself in front of somebody. And I know sometimes the idea of masking does seem so hard, and it can be, but it's also nice to slowly reveal yourself to somebody, and especially being able to do it kind of on your own terms. I'm a various amount of out to various people in my life, and a lot of it does have to do with really at the end of the day, I don't care if somebody doesn't recognize me the way I recognize myself. Me being honest with other people is a way of telling them I want to be closer to you. I want you to know who I am. And in order to do that, here's some more information, you know?
When I knew I was different ever since I was little, and I had to really mask myself quite a bit as a little kid. I had to pretend to be something I wasn't, and it wasn't until late high school when I met people that just did not care what gender I was, and I was finally able to embrace who I am. Years later, I found friends that also accepted me, but also gave me my name, Gertie, and I greatly appreciate them for that. Masking was really hard, especially in front of my dad, because I wanted to show him who I was, but I always felt like I had to wear a mask because he was always the traditional, strong Mexican father that, shows no weakness and does not cry. And I was the, chubby little kid that was always crying over any little thing. Like, I wore my emotions on my sleeve. I still do. And that just made me feel like I was disappointing him and not living up to his expectations. But now I realize that his expectations were never going to be reachable for me because of who I am. I remember this one instance where I finally took up the courage to express myself in front of my dad. He took me out for my birthday, and I walked into the restaurant with my little Stitch purse, painted nails, and a really cute dress. And my dad was shocked, to say the least. He didn't know how to react to me, but he tried his best. He did try to have a conversation with me, but he kept looking at me like if he didn't recognize me. And it was at that moment that I realized that I don't want to find acceptance from a man like this. I want to be able to love myself, and the way I'm dressed now is who I am. So I'm not hiding anymore. I'm going to embrace myself and be who I want to be, despite what my dad believes he wants me to be.
So I find it interesting that I had all of the same struggles growing up that I had as an adult. I had all of the difficulty with the social cues and the eye contact and all of this. But the second that I started putting down M on my medical paperwork, I got my ADHD diagnosis. I got my autism diagnosis. Like, it just, and I see it a lot. My medical care changes the second people look at my medical history and they're like, "Oh, why has this dude had a hysterectomy?" I'm like, "Well, you see, because I wanted one." But being a person who grew up high masking, being a person who had the typical female presentation of autism, I had the canon event of being diagnosed or misdiagnosed with BPD when actually it was untreated and unsupported autism. I have decided that I do not have the energy to care about what people think of me, and that is way easier said than done. Trust me on that. But when I go to work, I get a lot of she, her, and I don't really care. It's not like people are doing it to offend me. And if they are, that's their problem. But I've kind of realized that I just don't have the energy to present myself in a way that is typically either feminine or masculine to be accepted. I am going to be weird. I am going to have a strange cadence when I talk. I'm going to have my weird idiosyncrasies. I'm going to have my little idioms that I like to say. I'm going to just be myself, and not everybody is going to accept that. Not everybody is going to love that. My goal is to make sure that the right people are rattled by my presence. So I will find my crew and I will find my people, and what other people's opinions of me are don't determine my actions to the same degree anymore.
Love it, love it, love it. So, as we wrap up, my last question for y'all, speaking of people supporting, is what can people, those of you at home, hi, what can you do to be supportive and to support our trans and non-binary and all the other gender diverse people? What can they do if they're like, I don't know, like, do I have to do this? What do I do? Like, what do you do? So, straight from the people, what should they do?
Oh, goody. I get to get up on a soapbox for a second. So asking pronouns and using them. If you make a mistake, apologize quickly and correct it, and don't like prostrate yourself on the floor. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Just like, oops, my bad. Dead names are dead names for a reason. We don't ask them. If the person wants to share them with you, that is their decision, and it is an honor, but it is not something that you are entitled to know. If you have questions, I feel like, especially for myself as an openly gender diverse and openly intersex person, I do not mind people asking questions, especially when they do it from a place of wanting to learn. Just, understand that if somebody says, hey, that's not really an appropriate question, don't take it personally. Take it as a learning opportunity, because that was something that I had to do. I had to learn that, it wasn't appropriate to ask certain things. Probably the best example of that being, if you're not trying to take me on a date, you don't need to know what plumbing I've got. That is a personal thing. So, that's my general quick rundown advice of what to do is, ask pronouns and use them. Understand that not all questions are going to be answered, and just come at it with curiosity and openness and be receptive to what people say.
I think and I'm mostly speaking for myself, it's just having understanding that people might not know yet what they want to be called, but they will let you know what they're most comfortable with. It's also good to just give grace and patience, because you're not always going to get the answer that you want or you think you need, and that's going to be okay. Just understand that everyone is different in their own way and they express themselves differently. And just, live like today's sermon, live in this world with love and peace, and just embrace that, because at the end of the day, all people want to be heard and understood in their own way.
I think especially with my mom and trying to get her to understanding and where we're at right now, which is a very good place. One of the biggest pieces of advice that she was like, wow, thank you, was me just telling her, like, you don't have to understand what somebody's going through to understand that they're a human having a very human experience. I think that any part of not feeling like enough of X, anybody in their life can feel that way. So yeah, just ask questions, be curious, and try and meet as many gender diverse people as you can. I think being open and being kind goes a long, long ways, especially for a community that doesn't get a lot of kindness. So yeah, I think that being here is really, really great start. And yeah, just being open to corrections, and also being open to the fact that it's not going to be the same. Like, my non-binary identity is different than Gertie's non-binary identity is different than Alex's identity. And even if somebody on paper might have something very similar, I am who I am first, and then my gender is a part of that. But as long as you're looking at me as me, I'm cool,
Thank you so much, everybody. I love it. Thank you so much for your time. Give them a hand.
O Infinite Love, a prayer for Transgender Day of Remembrance. Prayer by the Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. O Infinite Love, help me face this day. My heart weeps with fear of violence, of invisibility, of hatred. Open me to beauty and wholeness, to love and laughter. I am enough. We are enough. I live in the sacred in-between. I embody the connectivity and allness of the infinite. May I remember that I am inherently sacred by my existence. The earth is filled with magnificent diversity, of which I am a small piece. May I remember I am part of the spectacular beauty of a diverse world, dependent on that diversity, my existence, for its survival. When I feel lost, may I hold to the earth and to community. When I feel invisible, may I have the strength to shout joyous gratitude from the rooftops for all who have seen me. When violence is before me, I ask for grace through the next moment. When I feel connected, may I share my love with those around me. When I feel seen, may I see others in need. When I am secure, may I rise up for the security of others. O infinite love, I sit within you and shine you out to the world that we may know grace, even when we do not live up to our most grounded values. We are life, and we are lives worth living, and my life is valuable, as all lives are valuable. O infinite love, thank you for the gift of the transcendent both, all and infinite, liminal, glue, connectivity. May I rest in that transcendent space today and for all the days to come. Amen, Ashe.